Heritage Words, a podcast about the words we've inherited from our ancestors and the meaning they bring to our lives. Heritage Words is produced by the HUC Jewish Language Project, which raises awareness about Jewish ancestral diversity through the lens of language. I'm your host, Sarah Bunin Benor. Today we have a guest host, Jack Lieberman. Jack was a student in my class, Jewish Language in the 21st Century, at the University of Southern California in fall 2024. I found the experience of interviewing people about their heritage words so interesting and enriching that I decided to share that experience with my students. For one of the assignments, each student interviewed someone who has an ancestral connection to a language about the heritage words that have been passed down the generations to them. In this episode, Jack interviews his mother, Michele, about her ancestral language, Yiddish. Enjoy the interview.
Okay. We are good to go if you are.
Okay.
All right. I'll do an introduction and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
Hi, Professor. I'm interviewing my mom. We're gonna be talking about Yiddish. So, yeah, we'll get started. So first off, Mom, can you tell me where you grew up?
Yes, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, California.
Okay. And what about your parents?
Um, my mother grew up in Washington, D.C., and my father was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and moved to Los Angeles when he was 4, and then grew up also in the San Fernando Valley as well.
Okay. So how many generations back were your family members not in America?
Okay, so my great-grandparents all were born in the old country. So whether that was in Poland, Romania, Ukraine, Russia, all the great-grandparents were born there. On Daddy's side, his grandparents all came from the old country, right? Grandpa was first generation. My parents are second generation,
Okay.
all from Eastern Europe.
Can you tell me why they left and came here?
Yes, for a better life for their family where they could try to live and thrive instead of being religiously persecuted, for the pogroms and the constant attacks on their family and the difficulty that it was for them to exist where they were. It reached a point where they were no longer safe. And so when they could get passage to America, they did that. And my on my maternal side, my grandparents came, or rather, my great grandparents came in 1911 and 1914. And on my paternal side, they came in 1901 and in 1895.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, do you speak any other languages aside from English?
Fluently? No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Do you understand any languages aside from English?
I understand some. I understand a decent amount of Spanish. I understand a decent amount of sign language, and I understand a decent amount of Yiddish.
So would you be able to, let's say there was someone who spoke Yiddish fluently and understood English, and you speak English fluently and can understand Yiddish, would you guys be able to have a conversation with each other?
Um, I could definitely get the gist of things. Like I don't know anything about grammar at all. It's mostly words that, again, I could get the gist of what somebody is saying given, you know,
Right.
the
Yeah,
that, yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
So, I mean, I guess proficiency wouldn't be the right word to use when talking about your understanding of Yiddish, but how would
No.
you rate your understanding of the language?
What Yiddish is for me is it's like this secret language, right? It's these words that you know that are a part of your identity because your parents or your grandparents spoke them. And so I'm comfortable with the language, not a back and forth dialogue, but in everyday conversation, there is never a day where Yiddish words, plural, are not a part of my everyday speech, which you could probably attest to.
That I can.
Yeah.
What about your parents and your grandparents? Do they speak any other languages?
So my grandparents, all of them, all of your great grandparents, all of my grandparents, and daddies all spoke Yiddish.
Grandma Pat spoke Yiddish?
Minus Grandma Pat, sorry. That no, Grandma Pat did not. So, um, of your grandparent, no, are we talking about your grandparents or mine? Sorry, I
Your
lost
your gra- your
my
grandparents.
grandparents. Yeah, of my four grandparents, three of the four spoke Yiddish, and of daddy's, four out of four. Um, my grandfather on Papa's side kind of forgot because it wasn't used anymore, right, when he married Grandma Pat. So it just sort of, but my grandmother spoke Yiddish fluently, I mean, Evelyn, and Papa Mike. That was like they communicated with each other only in Yiddish in front of my mom and her sister because they didn't want the kids to know what they were saying. So they would have conversations around the table. And then obviously, my great grandparents spoke Russian and Yiddish and English. They did learn English when they came here. Like it was important to them that they be able to speak the language of this country as well. But like all their newspapers that they read were in Yiddish. And, they liked vaudeville. They liked going to like klezmer, like it was still very much a day-to-day part of their world. But my grandparents did not speak it as much to the children. So that's why my parents' generation, for my family,
Right.
it's more words than everyday dialogue in that specific dialect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say? I mean, and you can interpret this however you'd like, but what would you say your connection to Yiddish is?
Um, well, it's family history. It's our fabric. It's this language that ties my family back generation, before and the generation before. Obviously, we're all, as even though we're Ashkenazi, we're all descendants of Israel, right? But I when I hear Yiddish, it sounds like home. It feels like home. It feels like a connection to a community that means everything to me.
Right.
Yeah.
But so what about that community like makes it mean everything to you? Like what about the community makes it feel so special?
I think it's just the history of who we are. We're here. We are these people that have been persecuted since the dawn of time, and yet we're still here. All 0.2% of us. And Yiddish, again, I say this as an Ashkenazi Jewish woman, is the root of the language of my ancestors. So it's safe. It's this like it's happiness. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hear these words, and it's like a secret language. Not that I want it to be. It should be something that, more people speak and make a point to learn, especially so that it doesn't die out. But it's like, it's like a handshake into a club, if that makes sense. It's just this connection of like, okay, I've got you and you've got me, and we're okay.
Right. I get that.
Okay. Did I answer the question? Then
I
I
think
get on tangents sometimes and I have to circle back.
that's okay. Tangent away. Um, but so I get that actually that leads pretty well into my next question, which is just in terms of hearing Yiddish, how does it make you feel? And like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Happy. And it's happy. It's happy, and also that feeling of like, so when I was little, my favorite series of books was called All of a Kind Family. And it was about a Jewish family that grew up in a tenement in New York City on the Lower East Side, like literally, Jack, where Russ and Daughters is on Orchard Street, and like where Economy Candy. It was one of the greatest books I've ever read, a series of books. And there was a lot of Yiddish in the story. And it was just about these four girls that were siblings growing up in this time that were Jewish, first generation here. And I love to think about that time. And obviously, that was a very difficult time for so many of our ancestors, but there's a beauty about it that is, it's a window into a time that was and a time that I wish that I could peek into. So
Do you
that's what,
think in my lifetime or your lifetime that 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 will happen again?
which part?
Like you're saying like you're peeking into this window of time that you want to see. Do you think that will make its revival?
I hope so. This is not a moment in time that, as we're living in it right now today as a Jewish community, that I think people are going to be like, wow, I wish I could have been there right then in this moment, in a post October 7th moment. But I think it's what we make of these moments, of how we come together, how community brings us together, how it makes me say, okay, even more like I want to make sure that we preserve this language, that I continue to teach you whatever words I know that are important so that we can pass it down, because we'll continue to thrive and we will continue to shine. And in that way, I hope that your generation's children will look back at this time and be like, okay, there were difficulties, but let's look at what also happened, this sense of community and this being part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And Yiddish, this language, ties into that even
Right.
today.
Well, that's like what my biggest takeaway in terms of the local Jewish community, at least, whether that be like here near USC or back at home, everyone's a lot closer since October 7th. Which,
Everybody in our Jewish community, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes. Um,
absolutely.
or most people in our Jewish community,
Yes. Well, there's never an absolute on anything, is there?
unfortunately. Um, but it is, I don't want to say it's nice to see because
The
nothing
reason
happening
is
now
nice.
is not nice. Um, but it is inspiring. I would say that, and it I think provides hope. And
Without a doubt, which is what Israel is, right? It's the hope. I mean, that's what they're.
well,
Yeah,
like the reason things aren't going in like quite in the direction that they did in the 40s is because we have Israel.
BH, without a doubt. And I've tried to tell you and your sister that your whole lives will always be okay as long as we have Israel, as long as the Jewish people have a homeland. And the Yiddish piece is not all of us, right? Like we have so many of our friends who are Israeli or Moroccan Jews, or right. So Yiddish is not their thing. They have Ladino, they have Farsi, they're speaking different languages. Um, but it is still this common thread, these languages that we speak, and so much of them come from this root of Hebrew. And then every time we're persecuted and we need to flee, and so we go to somewhere new and our language evolves and forms. It, like I don't know any real, I don't think I know any Ladino words, but a woman who I used to be on the PFC with at Willow, she spoke Ladino fluently.
Really?
And yeah, um,
That's so cool.
yeah, her youngest was Sam Levine's age. So they're too old for you. But anyway, I could hear this language and you knew, again, it was this connection, right? Different than hearing Spanish, because there was like, you could hear the Hebrew, Yiddishy Hebrew kind of dialect coming in with Spanish. And I was like, wait, you're my people too. It's language brings people together. It can.
So not just in the community that Sophie and I grew up in, because obviously that had a fair amount of Jewish people.
Yes.
Um, but like where you grew up, was there a not just a large Jewish community, but a large community that had this same sort of connection to Yiddish?
Yes, because I'm a generation like I'm that much closer to the past, right? So I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which there was a large number of Ashkenazi Jews. Some of my parents' friends were first generation. Uh, and most of them, if they weren't first generation, like then their parents were first generation. So you could go to a friend's house and come for Shabbat dinner. And if their grandparents were there, they were speaking Yiddish. So yeah, I mean, it, even for me, I mean, it's just a language that you heard all the time. And I think that we tend to gravitate to communities that are welcoming to us. So where I grew up was a large Jewish community, and my parents were very active in the synagogue, and you heard Yiddish. You heard Yiddish in songs. You heard Yiddish in conversation. Yes, it was prevalent, and same for Daddy.
So how do you find a community that is, welcoming to our culture? Like how do you know? Because like you you had Sophie and I grow up in Agora, but how did you know?
Because because like if I said to you, okay, Jack, like if you're deciding where you want to live today, and you want to stay in the United States, and I said, well, you want to find a Jewish community, maybe you should consider Los Angeles, New York, or I don't know, somewhere in Nebraska. What are you going to say to me? There's probably one
Los
place.
Angeles or New York.
Right. So you just know, right? Like off the bat, the largest population of the Jewish community in the United States is New York, followed by Los Angeles. Chicago has a nice amount. Michigan has a large, like in Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield.
So does
Kansas,
Florida.
Florida, right? Kansas City, where Papa's family is from, there's a huge Jewish community out there. You do your research, and it's easier now for your generation because you can type and see, like, huh. But you know how we play like Jewish geography because we're all connected. Our world is so small, like our little 0.2% of the population world is very small, and there's connections, and you go where you have connections.
Yeah.
Dee Dee came here from Washington, D.C. because Aunt Frida and Uncle Wendell lived in Los Angeles. So, okay, let me come and visit. I have a place. And they were active in their Jewish community. And when Papa would come home from the military and he was stationed in Kansas City, and he would go with Grandma Grace, and he was part of this young Jewish, it was like the 20 something Jewish community. Everyone spoke Yiddish there.
Right.
Howard and Debbie speak Yiddish, by the way.
They're fluent?
Uh-huh. Debbie grew up. That's why I heard, yeah, like she grew up with her Yiddish name and all, yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. We we got a little sidetracked. No,
Sorry.
that's totally okay. Um, can you give me like three or four words in Yiddish that you use, and can you spell them, please?
Um, okay, let's see. Machaya is one of my favorites. Mechiah. That's a guess. That, was one that my mom always says when it'd be a hot day and a cool breeze is coming. Such a Machaya. Drek, Drek, like garbage. Um, Boychik, what Daddy calls you, Boichik. Chutzpah, Chutzpah. Mamala, Tatala, Pupik, Azuchenvey, Oigewalt, Latkes, Drert, uh, uh,
That's
Shayna Dunham, Shayna Madel, tourist. I don't
Those
know.
will those will do.
Good. Do you need more?
I think we'll be
What
all
did
right.
I post the other day, yesterday, of you when you were playing, when they posted you on the jazz page at USC?
I don't remember what
I
you said.
wrote kvelling because I was kvelling. Yeah.
So what do you associate these words with, like, when you hear them? Like what is it that you think of?
Um, I think of family. I think of home. I think of generations of our people. I think of Lador Vador and, like, standing on the shoulders of the ones that came before us, of preserving a culture, not just a religion, a culture, a community, of a fabric of people who have a story to tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's critical. I think it's crucial. I think of the Holocaust. I think of, shtetls, and I think of, paintings from Chagall. Like, all of these things, when I hear Yiddish, these are like, there's a thousand horse and cart, a thousand things come through my mind.
Right. So that, I would then assume, leads you to feel that it is very important to make sure that Yiddish is still spoken.
So important, so important. Like, it really was, maybe I mentioned this already, but a disservice that my grandparents and my great grandparents, instead of teaching my parents, used it as their secret language, right? But that they didn't teach the language to be a form of communication, because now you're at my generation and moving into your generation where the words are just becoming a little bit less frequent in their use. The language is clearly a dying language. So yes, now is the time to bring it back. I'm taking Hebrew lessons now, but I would like to take Yiddish because I would like to be able to speak it.
Yeah. Well, right, because I mean, you know much more Yiddish than I do.
Yeah.
Um, and I know words here and there. Like, I'll call somebody a schmuck.
Okay.
No, no, we use that word in class. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Want to hear a funny story about Yiddish?
Sure.
I had a guy who he came to the house to install some blinds that we got, and he was telling me about his dog and his dog's name. And when he said the dog's name, my eyes got like really big because I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he said, yeah, my dog's name is Putz. And I started to laugh.
Like PUTZ.
Well, so there's a language difference, right? That's my assumption. I heard the word putz, and so yes, I thought it would ended with the Z. And I'm laughing, and he's like laughing, and then he's pointing to, the thing of Daddy's hole in one from golf, the
Oh
time
my
that.
goodness.
So he's pointing to that, like, oh, I see somebody in your family likes golf, and I'm like, yeah,
So the
remember
dog's name is spelled like PUTTS.
UTS, like putting, because he likes golf. And he was not Jewish or of Eastern European descent. And so he asked me why I was laughing. And oh my goodness, hold on. Sorry, your sister is calling, and I don't know what just happened. Are
Oh,
you
that's
still
okay. Yeah, yeah, and I still see you.
sorry? It like knocked you away. I
Sophie's
need
messing everything up.
to put it on do not disturb because I'm not tech savvy. Um, so anyway, I had to explain to him what the word meant in Yiddish, and we got a good laugh. So there's a funny Yiddish story, right? Like,
About the dog named Putz.
nuts. And help, this poor man's never going to be able to look at his dog the same way.
I mean, that is just unfortunate to name your pet that.
Right. But you think about that sometimes, right? Like, words that carry over from one language that means something entirely different in another.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the point of your question was, to be honest, but that was a funny story.
that's okay. Um, what sort of foods do you, or not just foods, music, uh, film, like, do you associate that not with Jewish or Ashkenazi culture specifically, but like Yiddish?
Well, I mean, you've got latkes and bagels, kasha and varnishkas, kishkas. So yes, there's borscht. There's definitely food that the words in and of themselves, right? Gefilte, like that are Yiddish.
Ew, don't
I
even say,
love
don't even say that around me.
that, I love it all. Um, so yes, food wise and Yiddish, absolutely. It's also a cultural thing. Again, like I don't think if you were from pretty much anywhere other than Eastern Europe and like in a Jewish as a Jewish person are out there eating gefilte fish. But
That's like it's evil to make people eat that.
so my Bubby Sugar would have a carp, like the big fish, in her bathtub, and this is where she would make the gefilte fish. So there's that. Um, probably while just speaking Yiddish. Um, and then of course there's like klezmer, like every time you play the clarinet, Jack, that's Yiddish to me. Like forget about just Jewish. It's not. It's this specific period. It's like vaudeville, right? It's this time of this renaissance of the Jewish actors coming from Eastern Europe who only spoke Yiddish. Like that was their language. And then they did vaudeville and brought their humor and their culture and their art. Again, I look at a Chagall painting and that's art for me. Marc Chagall that's Yiddish. It's even like the words, the pictures, it's what I imagine this time in the 1800s in Eastern Europe when they spoke this language. It's how I imagine that time to be. Did I answer it?
Yeah. Any songs in Yiddish?
Wife and Pripyat.
Right on. I don't know what that is.
I think it's Oifin, Oifin Pripyat, Pripicik.
Okay.
You should look it up and then you should take your clarinet and learn to play it for me.
Okay.
That should be the gift that I get.
Well, I will give you that gift.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers what we need to talk about.
I feel like you might have a few other things.
No, it's all good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day. Want to see all my books? Did I show them to you already?
Maybe some other time.
I have Yiddish wisdom.
Mama. Mama.
Choice of Yiddish.
Mama.
Okay.
All right. I'll call you. I'm just gonna end the meeting so it stops recording.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.